again, Dr. Modelstein here. I hope you have had a great week so far. It has been a good one here. So many model kits leaving out of the warehouse, headed to a hobby room near you. Ha! It really is great to see all these fantastic kits, you know. If you happen to be a ship modeler, then you are in luck, because tonight, Jeff will be doing part 2 of his United States Navy camouflage series. I am excited to hear all about the history behind these color schemes. Before we get into that, I am sure Brandon has plenty of saying hello to do, because it looks like we already have a great crowd in the room. Make sure to join in on the live chat. If you don't have access to the live chat, it is probably because you are not subscribed to our channel. Make sure to subscribe so you can join in on the chat next week. Well, sit back, relax, and get ready for the party. Because as Frank always reminds us in the chat, it is party time.
Hey guys, welcome to Squadron's Wednesday Night Live. Here we are once again. This is always one of the highlights of my week, and I appreciate you all being here with me. And Jeff will be joining me in a few moments, and it's so great that so many of you come and hang out with us for an hour to an hour and a half every Wednesday night. We have a blast, and I hope that you do too. And like Frank has already pointed out over in the live chat, it is party time. So again, thank you so much for being here. We've got some kind of cool stuff to talk about tonight. As you saw in the title of this episode, Jeff's got his USN Camouflage Part 2 ready. Several weeks ago, he did Part 1, which brought us up through Pearl Harbor, talking about how World War II ships by the U.S. Navy were painted, what color schemes, what kind of paint, why, when, where, all that kind of stuff. So we'll look at Episode 2 tonight, and Jeff will tell us where that takes us from, or where it starts and where it takes us to. And then, of course, there will be more episodes of that in the future. But for now, let's see who's in here with us tonight. Wayne is with us. Good to see you tonight, buddy. He is number 1 in the chat tonight. You got here early. And Dave out in Arizona, it's good to see you, buddy. And I saw your other message right down here below that you forgot about the time change. So, hey, it got you number 2 in the chat spot tonight, though. That's cool. Jeff J, good to see you tonight. And we're still dealing with this new thing that YouTube is doing, not showing me your guys' names. It's just showing me your @ for your YouTube account. So I'm still in the process of learning who everybody is based on this new way that YouTube's doing this. I don't know why they did that. But anyway, Mark is here. Glenn Ellis, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. And Danny. Chip Mitchie's here tonight. And David Miller, good to see you. Wayne's with us, and Ken, Derek, Arnell, good to see you tonight. Bill, hey, Bill's going to stop by next week on his way to Kentucky. Looking forward to seeing you, buddy. That'll be great. And come on in. Got a lot for you to look at. Mark is asking, how accurate are the Snyder and Short color chips? Ken's also asking because he's got a set from the 90s. As far as I know, and Jeff and I have talked about this before, as far as we know, they're pretty accurate. They've kind of been the standard, if you will, for a very long time. So I don't know of any bad inaccuracies off the top of my head. I've got a set of them, and so I think they're pretty good. Let's see, Rob's here. It's good to see you tonight. Close to Canada. Awesome. Well, good to see you. Alan, good to see you tonight. Let's see, Wes is with us, and Ed out in Texas. How are you, buddy? Oh, yeah, and Ed's talking about this UPS plane that crashed up in Kentucky. That was very bad. Very, very bad. I hated to see that. So hope that all that, who knows what UPS is going through right now, getting everything sorted out. And of course, I think there was 3 guys on that plane, and I hate that for their family. So prayers and thoughts and wishes for all that were involved with that, for sure. Rex, good to see you tonight. Let's see, who else is in here with us? Lee, Wes, yeah, you guys talking about the weather changing. This time of year, he's talking about the humidity and all this, and of course the time change. You get some pros and cons. You get more nighttime, and it's colder, so we like to be inside more. But gives you some good opportunity to get some models built. But you do have a little bit of a challenge on painting if you are used to doing painting outside or perhaps in the garage. But hey, we're modelers. We deal with it and we roll with the punches, and we figure out a way to get our models built anyway. Jason, good to see you tonight, buddy. And David Enders. Let's see. Hey, there's Jeff talking about the Snyder and Short color chips. And okay, yeah, he's kind of confirming what I was saying, that they've kind of been the industry standard. So that's awesome. Lawn Care Novice, good to see you. And Jim's with us. And TD, Preston, or Skip, rather, over in Alabama. Good to see you. Skip's asking about small boats and launches for 700 scale for 1890s French battleships. Skip, that's a pretty unique ask there. I don't know anything off the top of my head. I know we don't have anything. I am sure somebody out there in 3D land's got them somewhere, but I couldn't even begin to tell you who. So it's a very, very interesting thing. Shoot me an email sometime, and I'll put you on a list. If I happen to run across anything odd like that, I'd let you know, but I don't know of anything right now. Let's see, Graybeard's here. Got all sorts of guys in here tonight, so hello to everybody. We'll go ahead and move on. I'm going to try this new feature that my software has, and have no idea how it's going to work, but you see down here at the right of your screen, everybody's going to see all of the live chats in real time. So I know that some of you guys are watching on your iPads or your TVs as you're building models, and sometimes you might not even realize there's a live chat going on. So with this new feature popped up here, you can kind of keep track of who all's saying what. But for now, let me bring in my buddy Jeff. How are you, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just rocking along and doing what I do, I guess.
I am going to be preemptive and apologize in advance. It is a full moon tonight, and I have a 2-year-old dog that is absolutely out of her mind bonkers tonight.
Do you think
I
she's a wolf?
she was upstairs howling earlier, and I she doesn't even run down the stairs. She just launches herself at the wall and like pinballs off the walls to change direction. I mean, this animal is just strung right out. So if you hear things crashing or if you see something, a big yellow mass of fur flying in the background, I'll that'll be her. So
All right. Well, we've got some cool stuff
been a
going
busy
on
week.
this week.
Yep,
Yeah,
been a very busy week.
a lot of stuff happening. Uh, some new cool things, new sticks in the fire, I guess we can say. New
We're not supposed
wheels
to
that
talk
are.
about we're not supposed to talk about rabbits and irons in the fire.
No, well, we're not talking about. I'm just, giving everybody kind of some, months down the road from now, you can look back and say, oh, that must be the new sticks in the fire they're talking about. So
Yeah.
just all sorts of cool stuff going. One of the, I brought a couple of things to show you guys. Last week I had a whole stack of new kits, and one of them that I knew was coming, but I didn't have it last week is this. It's not a new kit, but we finally have them back in stock after a long time. This is an XP55 Ascender from Modelsvit. Very wacky, plain prototype kind of stuff. But you guys know me, and this fits the bill for the weird. But so many, this Modelsvit company, they make a lot of very not mainline stuff. But this particular one, we've had so much request to get this one back, so we finally did. We're in the process of getting. We were pre-selling these; they were up for pre-order. We should, fingers crossed, have the rest of the pre-orders shipped out by tomorrow. And just looking at the stack, I think there's 2 or 3, maybe 4 dozen of them left that were not on the pre-order. So point is, we've got some more of them. If you didn't pre-order these or didn't know they were coming, they're kind of cool. We'll have to take a look inside this thing sometime because it's just a wacky plane.
Well, there actually is one in existence.
They did make one.
They made several, I think.
Okay.
The last time I saw that airplane, the real one, it was at Kalamazoo Air Zoo up in Michigan.
Okay.
So this airplane, that was a long time ago. It's probably been moved to the Smithsonian or something like that, or maybe they still have it. I don't know. But the last time that I physically saw that airplane was at the Kalamazoo Air Zoo in Michigan. So this airplane does exist.
Did it ever fly though?
Yes.
Okay. Did it make it further along than our my favorite flying pancakes? Because they made a couple of those too, but they definitely didn't go into service.
No, they were never pressed into service.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. So that
I could Google it, and when we go to commercial break, I can
commercial break. Oh gosh. Well, hey, here is another cool product that we have been back and forth for so long now on what we were going to do.
Yep.
We've talked about doing them ourselves. We've talked about several different brands, and what I'm talking about, guys, is airbrushes. And ever since we got started with Jeff, and we have our own airbrush paint now, but we don't have any airbrushes. That was kind of an odd issue. I can sell you the paint, but I can't sell you the tool. So we looked at making our own. We tried that. We did some prototypes, but at the end of the day, the customer service aspect of it, the after sales, I'd rather leave it to the big guys and push a brand. Now we're not, there's other companies out there that's what they do. They sell airbrushes and they have every brand under the sun, and that's not us. We just want, maybe a couple different brands, just something to have it. And last year when I first got going with Jeff on the paint, I asked him what airbrush he uses, because and come to find out, we both kind of used the same stuff. I mean, there's a lot of really good branded airbrushes, and Jeff and I have kind of tried them all. We own several of each of all the different brands, but there was this one in particular. He said, "Hey, I want you to try this." So I said, "Okay." So he was down at my house last year teaching us how to make paint, and he brought it with him. He said, "Here, try this, run some paint through it, see what you think." So I did, and it was great. It worked just like you would expect an airbrush to work. It did its job. I was very happy with how easy it was to clean, because that's a big struggle for me. Not a struggle, but it's a big headache. If the brush is hard to clean, I want to clean it and move on and get down the road, But it worked really good, and specifically with the Scale Colors paints, it just worked really, really good. And I kind of looked and I was like, wow, this is like the perfect companion to your paint. And he goes, "Yeah, I know, that's why I use it." And he said, "Hey, here's the kicker. Guess how much they cost?" I said, I don't know, a couple $100. He said, "No, they're under $100. And I'm like, okay, I'm sold. Let's get going. So it's taken us a year to do it, but we finally got set up with this company, and the company name is Galeri, if I'm saying that correct. This is what their box looks like. Yeah, Jeff's holding one. Here you go. I'll fight you. Pew, 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 pew. Very nice dual action brushes. I've got all the whiz bang that you would expect a top of the line brush to have. The only thing this doesn't have is that crazy high price tag of $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, whatever. And Jeff's been using it for several years. I've been using these for about a year now, and I've had no problems at all. I mean, so much to where we're going to kind of push these things and promote them, and call them the perfect companion for the Squadron Colors paints.
Yeah, I will liken it this, and this is, believe it or not, this is a compliment. The Galeri airbrush is like the AK-47 of the airbrush world. You can beat the living daylights out of it. You can drag it through the mud. You can mistreat it, and it still works, no matter what. And that is, and it's funny because you said I have several airbrushes. I have double-digit airbrushes, and
He collects airbrushes like he collects model kits.
I've got CMC Microns. I've got the fancy limited edition Harder and Steenbecks. It's solid. It's reliable. Is it a Micron CMC? Is it a Harder and Steenbeck? No, it's not. But for what we do, it's a 0.2 millimeter brush, 0.2, and it works great. It works.
Now, so they have, if you look them up, they have several different airbrushes. For now, to start with, we are going to be carrying and pushing just what they call their professional series, their Mobius. The Mobius 2.0, or excuse me, 0.2, has a 0.2 millimeter needle and nozzle. It works so good with our paint. They also have, and that is a gravity feed. They also have the same Mobius thing, but they have it in a suction cup, if that's your cup of tea. They do both of these brushes in a 0.2 or a 0.3. If any of you guys have used our paint, you know that it works really well with a 0.2. It works well with a 0.3 as well. It requires a little bit more air pressure. You get much bigger than that, like a 0.5, trying to use a fan cap or something like that. It requires so much pressure that you're going to have issues with our paint. But these brushes, again, under $100. We'll have them posted up on our website sometime in the next few days, hopefully by this time next week anyway on the show. But for the price point, give one a shot and see what you think. For the price, you really can't beat it. And even if, like I said, I've been using it for about a year now, and for me, it's like it was the day I bought it. It's easy to keep clean. My needle has yet to bend and break on me. Somebody was asking in the chat a second ago, O2 Hands, do you carry parts and things? Well, at this very moment, I don't have any of it listed on the website, but our intention is all the parts that you would need for the Mobius brushes that we'll be carrying. Yes, we'll have replacement O-rings and needles and nozzles and all that fun stuff. And one other thing that is it's not unique to this brush, but it's definitely interesting. This is a built-in air regulator.
Yep.
So you don't even have to have a separate air regulator on your hose. It's built into the brush, and it's pretty useful. And Jeff, I like this. The color cap comes off, makes it so much easier to clean, and you can put a bigger color cap on there. So just it's cool. So these are the brushes we're going to be carrying. We should have them up for sale, like I said, within the next week or so, I hope. And yeah, there you go. That's what I got to say about airbrushes for tonight.
They're solid. You know, I as I said, I've got, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 17 or 18 airbrushes, and everyone thinks that, well, you know, don't you think that's overdoing it? As a paint manufacturer, you have to test your paint with people's airbrushes.
Yep.
So, you know, that's the reason why I have all these airbrushes. But the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, I use the Galeri. I have a Harder and Steenbeck that I use just for clear coats. I don't put any color paint through it at all. And then I have another brush. I have an Iwata that I use just for metallics and alclad and stuff like that.
Yep.
All the others sit in a drawer. So,
Ran Sameli, is that how I'm saying that right? He says great air compressors. Also, now, unless I missed another comment up here that somebody was talking about, if you're talking about the Galeri air compressors, I have not personally used one yet. As soon as we get them unpacked at the shop, I plan to try it and see what it's all about. But it certainly looks very nice.
Yep.
So I'm excited to try that too.
Yep.
So, Two Hands asking about silver paint. So I'll say this about silver paints and about World War I paints and car paints and all the other things that everybody's asking and hoping for. Round one of paints is done. We completed the task, 440 colors. They are done. And at least through the end of 2025, we are hanging our hats up on new paints and saying, hey, we're done with round one. And then in 2026, I don't know, early, mid, late, I don't know, in 2026, we will carry on with the next round of colors. And yes, metal colors will be in that. But at the moment, we're not even worrying about it.
No. What I will say my plan of action is that I want to try to develop. Anyone who's has built models for any length of time knows that there has never been a good acrylic metallizer paint. There has never been an acrylic that can do what, say, Alclad does. And I'm going to hopefully play mad scientist and try to change that. If I can't make an acrylic that works as well as Alclad does, then I'm going to formulate a lacquer that works as well as Alclad does.
I told him that I don't think that we'll beat the lacquer formula. But hey, Jeff said he's going to try to prove me wrong, so I hope he does.
That's a challenge for me. So,
yeah, but hey, the thing is, if we can't get metal colors that are better than lacquer, we'll do lacquer, and if we can, we will. Whatever the end result is, we're going to give the best product.
I didn't think I was ever going to be able to make haze gray either, and I did. So
there you go.
We'll see how it plays out.
Oh yeah. Well, I had something. So last week, towards the end of the show, we got on a topic that I didn't really intend to get on, but we did. And that was how model kits are shipped into importers in the country.
Trojan horses.
Yep. So I talked to, as you guys know, Squadron and MMD, we work very close together. MMD is my dad, Russ. So, we work very close together. We share a warehouse, in fact. So I asked him, I said, hey, can I can I borrow some of your MMD guys and show a little behind the scenes kind of thing, behind the curtain, and show these guys what we were talking about last week? He said, yeah, go ahead. So what I did is I just walked around. Actually, Tom, you guys know Tom. He was working on these actually today. Some of these ascenders, getting those packed up and ready. And I caught him at the tail end of it. I said, hey, let me take a little video before you get finished with those. And this is, every brand is different. Like literally every brand is different. What I'm about to show you is almost the extreme. They at least send us their plastic parts, pre-bagged, so we know what sprues go with what. But some brands, we get a box of sprue A and a box of sprue B and a box of sprue C, and but this is what we're looking at here.
That was very Forrest Gumpish of you. A box of sprue A.
Yep.
And a box
we get
B.
boxed. They bundle them up like I was just holding, in bundles of 10 or 12 or whatever it is, of boxes and instructions. And you get a bag of sprues, you drop a decal in it, you drop an instruction sheet in it, you fold the boxes up, and like Tom's about to do here, you see a little bag sealer back there behind him. Yeah, there you go. Folded up a box and put it together. And I mean, literally, this is when we talk about Trojan horses. That's what we're talking about, because you get a box, you open it up, and you never know what's hiding in that Trojan horse. So that is one example of what has to be done. And then, as you can see in all these boxes, you get all sorts of stuff. So this, I don't even know which brand this is, but that box is full of that sprue, and then another box will be full of another sprue. Then after we get past that, some brands like these we're fixing to look at here, they actually do come to us assembled like this. But as you can see, there is no shrink wrap. Shrink wrap is an American thing. It really, really is. And we like our shrink wrap. But there's one of our machines. Here's one of our other machines. And as you can see, there's Jared there. Like literally, we shrink wrap every single one of the kits that comes in. Now, if you've ever got a shipment from us and the kit was not shrink wrapped, I'm not saying that we don't miss one every once in a while if we get busy or something happens to the machine. This machine burned up, a couple months ago. We had to replace some parts, but that's when we got this other machine. Now we got a backup machine to do other things. But that is literally part of why it takes so long sometimes to get things processed through. So I don't know, just a little behind the scenes for you guys. A lot of people don't really know what's involved when you're importing these products in bulk like this.
And everybody thinks we just sit around and build models and tell bad jokes all day.
Steven says, I don't think the 200 ships. Yeah, if you buy any huge kits from us, yeah, we don't run the 200 scale ships through the shrink wrapper, and we don't run the Dora through the shrink wrapper. But Chip is asking about the A12. So the A12 is actually a totally different animal. Model Collect, I love Model Collect. There's some great guys, and they do some amazing kits, but they just absolutely messed up the production run on the A12s. Having said that, Chip and anybody else who bought those A12s from us, if you received 2 upper fuselages and no lower, if you received the wrong decals, or if any of your clear parts have little black specks in them, I have replacements. They just they sent us an entirely new set of replacements. Yeah, that particular brand is not one that actually comes as Trojan horses. They come to us. All we got to do is shrink wrap them. But I have, I think, enough replacement parts to potentially replace every single one of them that we've shipped out. So if you're missing anything in your A12 kit, the A12 Avenger, or missing or damaged or whatever, a lot of them were short shots in their very first production run. They had short shots left and right. So it was just a bad bad situation. But they have replaced everything to me or to us, and I have them. I can ship them out. So if you're missing anything, just email us and let us know, and we'll get that sorted out for you. That's all I got on Shop Talk, Jeff. Do you want to go ahead and warm up the USN Camo Part 2, or do you got something else first?
There's some questions over there that we could probably, unless you don't want to address them at this particular.
No, what are we looking at?
I might lose my job over this.
Oh boy. All right. So Airfix USA. So Hornby USA was the official importer for Airfix, and they closed up, or well, rather, they are in the process of closing up, and they are no longer going to be importing anything. They're going to be gone. Hornby had brands like Corgi, Poker. They had several brands, and all of their brands were, I don't know, split up to different importers. I believe the Corgi and the Poker stuff are going to be imported and dealt by a distributor somewhere down in Florida that they deal in diecast. That's what they deal in. So of course that's why they were interested in that. And I believe Hornby, Airfix in the UK, they have they sent an email out or an official message and said they're changing to a importer / distributor led model versus what they have been doing with their own US based facility. Anyway, MMD was chosen to be one of the importers for Airfix, along with a couple others that they already had established. But so point is, all of the Airfix kits that were kind of up in the air, whether or not we were going to be able to get them, like the Artemis is one of the big ones that's coming out that is pretty exciting, and a lot of people are wanting that, along with their reissues of the space shuttles and things, and of course all sorts of aircraft and just tons of other stuff. We will be able to get those. Russ has got those coming, and I told him don't leave me out. He's got a lot of other dealers knocking on his door trying to get that stuff, but I will certainly have my hands on some of them, and we've got them up for pre-order. If you go over to the site now, let's see, right?
24th scale Spitfire, Mark 9, 24th scale Hawker Typhoon.
Well, if you go over here to the pre-orders and change it to Airfix, these are all the items that are on the way, new kits that are on the way. So all sorts of cool stuff. This Westland Wessex is one of the hot items that everybody's looking forward to.
Yep.
But so that'll be good. I'm excited. I know Russ is excited to be able to get that, and then mostly that stuff will just still be available here in the States. So,
yep. And if you haven't built an Airfix kit in a while, they have improved their engineering and their design work exponentially.
Yep. Yeah, and if you have any questions about Airfix is one of those companies that they still sell their old kits, like Tamiya, like ICM, like all of them. And their old kits, if you get one, it's still an old kit. But if you grab one of their new kits, like their new Tool B24 and 72 scale, they are fantastic.
Yep.
So if you've got any questions about if you see one of their kits, and you're like, hey, I'd love to have that, email me and I can tell you if it's new tooling or old tooling. And, you can usually tell based on the price. It's just like Tamiya's kits. When they issue a new tank and it's $20, you can pretty much bet it's their old tooling they're reboxing. Right. And when they put a new kit out and it's $100, you can pretty much bet that that's a brand new tool.
Right.
So, what other questions are over here that you're going to lose your job over, Jeff?
Let's see. Track rollers.
Is that it?
Track rollers. Bill Moore he used our track rollers for the first time. Said that he really likes it. And have we ever thought of producing tire rollers? Yes. They are a short list item. I'm working on both German and US and Jeep tires and things of that nature to add into the diorama products queue.
Right.
I'll get around to them eventually.
So I'm going to pull up a fun picture real quick.
No.
Excuse me. No, it's actually I hadn't showed you this yet.
I was going to say it wasn't the one of me in the chicken suit, was it?
No, it wasn't. So we're working on this 3D print room place. Well, we've run into a roadblock.
Oh yeah.
And so here you go. Here's our roadblock.
Yep.
This is the I don't know why it's sideways, but whatever. So this is our plumbing. We're trying to run our plumbing for our wash sink and all that kind of stuff. And this concrete, we started working on it, nothing. So we hired what is supposed to be a professional concrete company. And any of you guys that do this for a living might be laughing at their work at the moment, but they're working on it. They're trying. This is the hardest concrete that I have ever seen in my life. It's like reinforced. You can't heat it up. You can cut through it and you blow a blade out. The jackhammer wouldn't even touch it. It is I don't know what the heck it is, but yeah, this is our current issue at the moment. But they tell us that they'll be done by the end of the week. So we can, this is the last thing. I mean, the rest of the room is done. We just got to paint it, get all the printers set up, but got to have water in there first. You want to come take care of this for me, Jeff?
Sure.
Get your sledgehammer and
I'll just claw it out with my bare hands.
But that's the hold up at the moment.
Yeah, we were joking about that. Chip says we have a great foundation.
Yeah.
I think we could probably land a 747 on the concrete there, and it would hold the weight. It's
crazy. I at least know why rent is so high now.
Well, hey, you know what? If we ever decide we wanted to get into tank restorations or something like that,
we got the foundation for it.
We could park a 60-ton tank on the floor and not have to worry about cracking the concrete.
It's nuts. But all right, well, how you want to get this going, Jeff? This is all you.
Well, this is all me. Well, let's see here. Well, I guess we could start. So if you remember the last episode that we did, this was a condensed version of a white paper that I wrote. Exactly. The United States Navy Camouflage and Color Doctrine, Part 1. And this discussed the development of U.S. Navy camouflage. Obviously, we touched on the pre-war colors and the overall premise of 1941 being probably the most convoluted and confusing year with regards to the development of naval camouflage, because everyone was running around experimenting with things, and there was a lack of communication between the East Coast and the West Coast, and then of course the slow logistical cycle. The East Coast Atlantic Fleet would come up with something really good, and then they'd ship it off and they'd tell the Pacific Fleet, and then 6 months later the Pacific Fleet would get it, but by then the Atlantic Fleet had already moved on to something else. So they were always, getting the 6 month hand-me-down, information and products. And then of course there's the whole premise of, the North Atlantic is kind of gray and gloomy and overcast, and the South Pacific is, bright blue, clear. So gray versus blues. So 41, and then obviously it culminates with the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th. So immediately after the attack on Pearl Harbor, things start to coalesce and come together. And I don't know if it's a case of, okay, we now have to get our act together because now we're fighting a war, or if it was finally just a case of, even if the attack hadn't happened, this would have continued on and developed at the pace that it did, because they had all finally come to the conclusion about what they needed. So that's where we're going to pick up. We're starting with December 16th, 1941, and we're going to go until March of 1943 in this particular volume. So as I mentioned earlier before, priorities changed for the U.S. Navy following the attack on Pearl Harbor. Camouflage was not always at the forefront of naval thinking, even prior to the attack. It certainly was not at the forefront of naval thinking after the attack. There were a lot of other priorities, both logistical, strategic, conducting the war, naval operations, construction, Bureau of Construction and Repair, were up to their neck with trying to get as many ships out of the yards as they could. So the camouflage doctrine continued, and it resulted in the camouflage section being put together in 1942. And this was basically everyone who had been off doing their own thing in 1941 and earlier doing experiments. Everett Warner and Bittinger, all of these guys kind of came together under the auspices of the camouflage section. One of the things that they realized early on, and then there was an event immediately after the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 10th, when the British lost HMS Prince of Wales and Repulse, that it although naval historians will argue that Prince of Wales and Repulse were lost because they didn't have air cover, it nevertheless exacerbated the need to come up with a solution to camouflage ships against aerial attack. Prior to that, ships had always been camouflaged for surface attack, gunnery from other ships, and or torpedo attacks from submarines. So now they've added a third element. And the logical conclusion that they came to was that there is no one perfect camouflage measure that effectively does all three. And in fact, in reality, only concealment, painting the ship the color of the water, was really, of the three, the most useful priority. So when we start thinking about camouflage, we're thinking about concealment, physically hiding the ship, which if you look at the photo of a battleship, it's not easy to hide something that is 800 feet long and 35,000 tons. And then deception. And if any of you have ever played football, or done any form of competitive shooting or duck hunting or anything like that, you never fire where the target is unless it's standing still. You always fire where the target is going to be. Like a quarterback throws the football to a spot on the field and the receiver gets to that spot. So the whole premise of naval gunnery, you're on a ship that's moving at a specific speed, at a specific course and heading. Your target is a ship that is moving at a specific speed and a specific course and heading. So effectively, you have one half of the mathematical equation. You know how fast you're going, what direction you're going. And most of the time, you know the range to the target. What you don't typically know is how fast that target is moving and what direction are they actually heading. And the camouflage plays a role in both breaking up the outline of the ship, making it harder to actually determine the range, how far away is the ship. If you fire at a ship at 10,000 yards, but the camouflage actually makes it 1,100 yards, your rounds are going to fall short and you don't hit the target. So all of this was kind of coming into play towards the very tail end of 1941. All of the Pearl Harbor battleships had different camouflage patterns on them. The Navy on both fronts, the Atlantic and the Pacific, were experimenting with different colors. So the Pearl Harbor attack comes, and then on December 16th, the Navy finally says, okay, enough is enough. They released confidential circular letter 10-41, along with 21 CN-41, which came out at the same time. And they said everything from now on has to adhere to the Ships 2 book, which had been released earlier in the latter part of 1941, September of 41. So ships are now starting to transition. They're starting to go back to the Ships 2 book. They're following the rules for the most part. However, again, logistical problems and whatnot. We've got, 20,000 gallons of paint at Pearl Harbor that all of a sudden we're being told that we have to go to a different color. So there were caveats in all of this, and those caveats actually kind of continued well into the latter part of 1942, in that 5SC Blue was officially discontinued in December of 1941 in favor of 5N, yet capital ships and even auxiliary vessels were wearing 5SC Blue well into late 1942, and in some instances even 1943. So what this has done is it creates a second round of confusion, if we will, but at least the doctrine has been pretty much settled at this point. So obviously the early war doctrine, pre-war and very early war, December of 41 into January, February of 42, measures 1 through 13, with measures 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 being discontinued at the end of 1941. Those were painting the ship overall black, painting the ship to look, painting parts of the ship to make it look like a destroyer, the false bow wave, things of that nature. Those were all pretty much experimental measures that were done away with. And again, if you go into the documents, what you find is that these experiments that they ran on all of these measures 4 through 8, for the most part, none of them really were that advantageous, and worth keeping. So they weren't called experimental measures, but they were treated as such and then subsequently dropped. So in the first photo, you can see, this is, I've always called this photo the perfect example of measure 1. This is USS Drayton, and she's wearing measure 1B and is wearing sapphire blue. Now, sapphire blue was a very promising color in terms of its shade and its reflectance and its camouflage qualities. Early testing, everyone loved this color. Destroyer captains, battleship captains, aircraft observation crews said that it was almost impossible to see the ship on the water when they were wearing sapphire blue. Unfortunately, the chemistry of the paint was kind of bad. The paint had bad adhesion properties and it faded very, very rapidly. And as such, it was never used and put into production. But you can see the premise behind measure 1, which the mast of the ship, everything above the gun director, is painted in 5L light gray. And you can see just that little stub of how the blue on the mast sticks out just over the edge of the horizon. So from a camouflage point of view, that ship matches the color of the water, and the mast lines up almost perfectly with the horizon line, and everything above that is light gray. At range, that would be a very, very difficult target to spot. So measure 1 and measure 2, however, were already pretty much discontinued in the initial December 41 September 41 versions of ships too. The Navy understood that there was no perfect camouflage scheme. So what they started working on was developing hybrids and adapting the best qualities of both Measure 1 and Measure 2. Measure 1 being an overall pattern, you paint the whole ship blue, and Measure 2 being a graded pattern, whereas the hull is done in a dark color, the superstructure is done in a medium gray color, and then the upper works and the masts are done in a light color, with the premise being that as a ship is farther away, yes, you can see a horizon line, but the water is always going to be darker the closer you are to it, and the further away you get, it kind of graduates into a 3-layer type of a striation. So what ends up happening is that Measure 1, which is the overall scheme, eventually becomes Measure 11. Measure 1 originally started out with 5D, and then they had Measure 1 variations that use sapphire blue, sea blue, and navy blue in experiments. So what they ended up doing was when 5D was discontinued, they went to 5S. When 5S was discontinued, they went to 5N. 5S was discontinued in December of 41, and ships were still being painted in 5S in Measure 11, although they were ordered to use 5N whenever supplies were available. So it is possible that a ship could be in officially Measure 11, but painted in 5N. And since most of these photos are black and white, it's very, very difficult to tell between the two, just looking at black and white photos. So, I'll continue on to kind of go back to Measure 2 and get into the graded schemes. But so overall, the use of 5N navy blue in a Measure 11 pattern was still referred to as Measure 11 until June of 42. After that, it officially was renamed Measure 21. So Measure 1, and then Measure 11, and then Measure 21. So in theory, they're all basically the same type of overall camouflage scheme. Measure 2 was a graded scheme. And I keep forgetting that I have the clicker. I'm making signals to you to click the slide, and I realize I'm the one who's doing it.
Right.
So Measure 2 was a graded scheme. And then Measure 2 was replaced by Measure 12. I have not been able to locate any good photos in color of Measure 12. However, this photo here of the Charles F. Hughes, the bottom half of the hull is sea blue, 5S sea blue. And then 5O ocean gray is that middle gray band, and then everything up above it is 5H haze gray.
Let me ask you a question, Jeff, because a moment ago you were talking about the Measure 11, and painted with 5N when possible. Mm-hmm. So is the measure more specifically how it's painted, not necessarily which color it's painted with?
Yes and no.
Okay.
What ends up happening is and we have to kind of remember too, again, it goes back to logistics and production and timing and transporting of materials, out to the forward bases, Pearl Harbor, even to the West Coast, from the East Coast and things of that nature. So, and even with the Pearl Harbor ships, there were captains that were painting their battleships in new paint measures, but were using old colors because the new colors weren't there yet. There were some ships that were actually half painted with new colors and half painted with old colors. So it really is kind of a crapshoot. You almost have to get into the history of the specific ship that you are modeling to try to nail it down, especially early on. If you want to do a destroyer from 1944, chances are it's, measure 21 or measure 22, maybe a dazzle that carried over. Those are relatively easy to track because then you also have design sheets, and the design sheets for that measure specify what colors to actually use. But this early on in 1942, especially, early to mid 42, they were using whatever they had on hand. The 5D dark gray had pretty much gone away. It was still, you'd still find harbor auxiliaries and tugboats and non-combatants using those colors because repainting them was not a priority, as opposed to battleships, carriers, cruisers, frontline warships. And then we also have to remember that, if your ship departs Pearl Harbor on Monday wearing one particular paint color and or measure, and then new rules come down on Tuesday that you're supposed to paint your ship in a different color or a different measure, you don't turn around and come back to get your ship painted. You go out for 2, 3, 4, 6 months at sea, however long you're forward deployed, and then you come back when your ship is either scheduled for an overhaul or is damaged in combat and requires yard time. So
which means that you could completely miss an entire measure. Or
absolutely.
Two. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. You could. In fact, I would have to get into the books and remember which one it was, but there was a Fletcher class destroyer that went directly from measure 12 mod to dazzle. She never wore measure 21 or 22 in between. And it's one of the lesser known ships. I'll have to look it up, but there's okay. And that's a perfect example of it missing, a camouflage measure altogether. So getting back to measure 2. So measure 2 is a graded pattern, used the early colors. Measure 12 was a graded pattern using the newer colors, 5S sea blue, 5H haze gray, 5O ocean gray. Measure 12 was still in use as a standard graded pattern when the transition from sea blue to navy blue took place. So here's it's an anomaly. It's a little confusing, but not really. So when measure 12 went from 5S sea blue as the dark blue color to 5N navy blue, for a very short period of time, that was referred to as measure 12 revised. The revision to measure 12 being stop using 5S, start using 5N. That was also reiterated to everybody in 21 CN 41 in December that said no more 5S, use 5N. So there are so the solid demarcation lines measure 12 pattern. It was seen on a few ships. It was not as common as measure 11 and then measure 21, measure 11 revised, which is actually measure 21. So in a very short period of time, and I think this has something to do with CS 19-341, which was a memo that was circulated amongst all of the commands that talked about the camouflage that was found on British destroyers that were operating in conjunction with U.S. ships in the Atlantic. And the British destroyers were painted in what they were calling Admiralty disruptive schemes. The best way to describe it is kind of like a splotch pattern. There was a caveat in ships 2 that said captains and or yards and or fleet commanders at their own discretion could break up the solid outline of the graded pattern and use the upper colors to kind of, for a lack of a better term, bleed down onto the lower colors. So what you see then is measure 12 modified, which is not measure 12 revised, measure 12 modified, combine the graded tones with pattern areas on the hull and the superstructure. So this was very similar to a lot of the British camouflage patterns. So basically what it did is if your hull was navy blue, you had 5.0 ocean gray that kind of went over the top of the navy blue. And in theory, you could have haze gray that went down over the top of the lighter ocean gray. A few ships demonstrated this. I think it was Alabama. When she was wearing her measure 12 mod, you can actually see 5H on the hull. But the premise was pretty much 5.0 ocean gray and 5N navy blue on the hull, and 5H haze gray and 5.0 ocean gray on the upper works. So because each of these were kind of unique and unto themselves, as you can see from the photo of Juno, Juno probably has the most outrageous measure 12 modified scheme that was ever carried by a U.S. Navy ship. She later on painted her hull out. Atlanta, her sister Atlanta, had a very similar style of scheme, and Atlanta's hull was also painted out eventually. And then Juno painted into Mountbatten pink. See, we cannot have an episode without mentioning Mountbatten.
I was waiting for it.
So Juno was actually lost wearing Mountbatten pink. So there are no design sheets for these measure 12 modified schemes. Unlike the dazzle patterns that you see measure in the 30 series, 31, 32, 33A, there are no design sheets that were developed for these specific ships. So every ship is unique. If you do happen to see a profile view of a ship wearing a measure 12 pattern, that is because someone post-war worked off photographs to recreate the pattern on the sides and superstructures of the ship. So if you're going to do a model of Juno, you need to gather every photo that you can if you want to make it accurate.
Right.
Ed Grun.
Yeah.
Jeff mentioned Mountbatten pink. Everybody needs to take a shot. We're going to turn this into a drinking game. So these are some examples of measure 12 modified. Obviously USS Buchanan, USS Roper. You can see on Roper that the pattern almost appears to be symmetric, almost like a tiger stripe. And you can see on the superstructure, I want to say that's Alabama again. I'm not sure. I think it is. You can see all three colors on her superstructure. You can see 5.0, you can see 5H, and you can see 5N on the platform there. So it's 42 in measure 12 mod is probably the most difficult of all of the time periods to try to figure out, because all of the patterns are for the most part random. And some are very Picasso-like, some are leopard spots, some are stripes, some are splotches, and the orders for the most part were actually ignored. The orders said that the lighter color was not to exceed 33% of the dominant color. So in theory, when you think about it, okay, if the hull is navy blue, then ocean gray should not take up more than a third of the space on the hull, enough to break up the outline. And then it was very short-lived, because after they did all of this, or while they were doing all this, the Camouflage Bureau was looking at this and said, it really doesn't work.
Well, you know what it when you just said what you said about they were all unique. I mean, the crew, the captain, the crew, whoever it is painting their ships. It almost sounds like when all the air guys started doing the nose arts and things on their planes.
Yeah.
It's like all they're here. I'm going to paint this on my nose, and it kind of became their own personalized thing. So I can see where, hey, let's just see how crazy we can get with our camo patterns and whatnot.
And there are some things, you can kind of tell, I think, when the captain was kind of dictating what he wanted the ship to look like, because you can see consistency, port and starboard, fore and aft. But there's some ships where you look at the port side of the ship and it looks like a Picasso, and then you look at the starboard side of the ships and it looks like polka dots, and you could tell that there were two junior officers who were tasked with painting each side of the ship, and they both had different ideas in their heads of what the orders were supposed to be.
Right. All right. Hey, over in the chat, everybody's asking, talking about ships, squadrons versus airplanes. Tonight is ship night. That's just the simple of it. We'll have aircraft night sometime, and we do tank night and figure night, and heck, we'll probably get to the point where we do car night sometime. We're getting more and more interest in cars, so don't worry. We try to do a little bit of all of it, but tonight is ship night for sure.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I'm a ship guy. You're a ship guy. It's real difficult to kind of not always fall back to what you know.
Yeah, we always mention Mountbatten Pink.
Always.
Hey, at least we're not talking about Doras and railguns tonight. There you go, Ed. Take your shot.
We kind of did, because you couldn't fit it in the shrink wrap.
That's true.
So the top photo is a really excellent study of a Fletcher wearing measure 12 modified, and then the drawing below it is from the book that I wrote back in '97 on Fletcher gearing and Sumner class destroyers. So this was Lavalette's camouflage pattern, and I actually drew this camouflage pattern based off photographs. And how you do that is I'll be honest, there's a little bit of guesswork to it, but you try to line up fittings on the ship with where the paint lines come together, both fore and aft. On the number one turret, you could see where the navy blue worked right up into the base of the turret, whereas everything above it was a different color. So once you extrapolate those lines and you kind of get a foundation for where you are, the rest of it kind of comes together pretty well. So yeah, measure 12 modified is completely unique. So once the Navy started realizing that measure 12 mod was kind of a pain in the ass to maintain, you had the dramatic pause there. I gave you enough time to bleep me out if you wanted to.
I didn't know it was coming. If we do it again, I'll have to hit it.
There you go. When they realized that measure 12 mod was going to be difficult to maintain, and not only that, it requires multiple colors of paint. The Camouflage Bureau really started working on institutionalizing and standardizing the camouflage practices. And one of the things that they learned early on was probably the Navy's paint version of the KISS method, which is keep it simple, shipmate. And it was there. So they went back to what worked most effectively, back in December of 41 and early January, which is, measure 1 and measure 2. So you can see here, by mid 42, ships in measure 21 had repainted into 5N navy blue. This was a simplified version of measure 1. All they did was they stopped painting everything above the funnels in 5L light gray. That pattern, as it appears on that particular cruiser, I think it's Boise. No, I don't even remember now. Whatever ship that is, Ron will probably tell me. That remained the standard pattern on ships through the end of the war. And in fact, there are some ships that never painted out of Measure 21 and carried that same pattern throughout the entire war. And then Measure 22 was adopted in June of 42, and that was a graduated pattern, a graded pattern. But instead of using 3 colors as Measure 2 and Measure 12 had done, they used 2 colors, 5N on the lower hull and 5H haze gray on everything up above. Both of those patterns remained the 2 of the standardized patterns throughout the rest of the war. Even when ships in 43 and 44 started painting into dazzle patterns, which we'll cover in part 3, there were ships that remained in Measure 21 and Measure 22. So in part 3, we'll discuss development of the pattern systems. Measure 31, the dark pattern, Measure 32, the medium pattern, Measure 33, the light pattern. We'll talk about the different design sheets that were developed and the measures and the numbers. So what it also gets confusing, because what we find is that there are patterns that were designed for destroyers that were put on battleships. There were patterns that were designed for battleships that were put on cruisers. So they jump all over the place. So we'll discuss the doctrinal philosophy of dazzle camouflage, and the reason for dazzle camouflage was precipitated predominantly by the fear of submarine attacks and surface actions. And of course, this last photo, you can see that the Sumner in the foreground is painted in Measure 22, and the 2 ships in the background are both painted in Measure 21. And that's it. That's kind of where we're at with that's nice. The Reader's Digest super condensed version. Yep. I didn't even get into documents and memos and fleet orders, and I had a stack of papers over here, and I was like, you know what, I'm when Brandon nods off and falls asleep, then
well, one of these days we're going to just have to cut you loose and give everybody in the weeds with Jeff.
Yeah, we could do that. We'll probably turn it into like a 2-hour YouTube video.
Yeah, not in the live setting.
No.
Well, that's cool. Thank you, Jeff. That's some excellent information. And just like the part 1 is posted on our website, we will have this part 2 posted on the website hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah,
and you'll be able to get that in the information tab up here under the rivet counting tab.
Ricky was asking about Gato class submarines. I didn't touch on them. I probably should. Gatos wore Measure 9 and Measure 32, 2 Measure 32 dazzle schemes that came along in 44. But Gato class submarines all the way up through late 1943, early 44 would be overall dull black. That's not very exciting. There was Measure 9 and Measure 10 that were developed for submarines. And one was Measure 9 was the overall black. Measure 10 was ocean gray. It's Gato. Chip. So, and then Measure 32 scheme came along later on that is a dazzle pattern, or not a dazzle pattern, but kind of a graded camouflage pattern for submarines. So submarines are nowhere near as exciting. U.S. submarines do not have red bottoms, and neither do German U-boats. So the bottoms of U.S. submarines were black, and the bottoms of German U-boats were dark gray, 7016, RAL 7016. So if you ever see a U-boat that's done with a red bottom, it's either pre-war or incorrect.
There you go. Well, cool, Jeff. Thank you for that. I got one more cool little thing for us all to take a look at before we get out of here tonight.
Oh, you're not going to bring up me in the chicken suit again, are you?
No.
Okay.
Over on our Facebook group, the private group, the Squadron Modelers Club, if you hadn't joined, go join it if you're a Squadron customer. That's the requirement to get in. Anyway, we posted earlier this week a question on there that was pretty well received. I said, what is one Holy Grail kit in your stash? And a Holy Grail kit can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It might be a kit that's so rare that you can't believe you have it. It might be a kit that, your great grandpa gave you when you were 10 years old that you still have. It might be a kit that's so expensive that you can't believe your wife finally let you buy it. It can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. But I'm going to pull up this post here on our group, and some of these are kind of cool. Jeff, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this. Danny commented first talking about his CV5 that he's not putting it together because it's too big. But if you scroll through here, if you're a part of the group, go take a look at this. There's a lot of cool, interesting kits that people mention, and there's a lot of cool reasons that people mention them. Steve Bacon here is talking about this Snap Tight Tiger that he's got because he's had it for 50 years. So it's just a very interesting. Did you get a chance to look through this, Jeff? Did any of them jump out at you as interesting? You're muted.
Is that better?
Yeah, sure.
There we go. See, all right. So I've said this to you, and I'll say it to everyone else. I have this fancy little headset, and it's got this little key fob thing here. And this little key fob thing controls the headphone mute and the microphone mute and then the volume button. Well, unfortunately, the cord is just long enough so that when I rest it, my beer gut pushes the buttons and I automatically mute myself. So
oh gosh,
I need to get one of those little lapel clips and keep it up and out of the way. I look at it from a perspective of I had a Holy Grail kit because it didn't exist. It wasn't out there.
Okay.
And now it's out there and I have it. And that's the Taiho, the 350th scale Taiho.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I really don't know that I have any other kits because everything that I have a laundry list of all the, I guess I do. I do have a Holy Grail kit.
Okay.
It doesn't exist. And I would probably, maybe give up a spleen or something for it. A 32nd scale B-26 Marauder.
Oh, okay.
They've done everything else,
Yeah.
And my logic is if they can do a B-17 and a B-24 and a Lancaster and a B-25, they can do a B-26.
Okay. I like Ron Smith's post in there. He says there's no such thing as a Holy Grail kit. So, everybody's got their opinion on this. It's as you scroll through, there's my picture I posted of the Ghost of Kiev up at your show.
Yep.
Valeria signed one of those for Dad. So that's going to
cool.
sit in the case. That's never getting built. So it's an interesting post. I really appreciate everybody jumping in and talking about it, and everybody's replying back to each other. It's just really neat to see what kits hold value and for what reason. Some of these kits, I can just tell they're extremely expensive. Some of them are extremely rare. Some of them have, sentimental value. It's just a cool post. So if you guys haven't seen that post, go check it out and jump in there if you've got some cool, things to talk about.
And I think some of them too, you come at them, as you said, for different reasons. My very first kit that I ever built seriously meaning that I filled the seams and puttied it and sanded it and painted it and did all of that stuff. I didn't build it to blow it up. Was an Airfix SBD Dauntless in 72nd scale.
Okay.
That was the first model that I ever seriously built. I still have it.
Okay.
I still have it.
There you go. That's your Holy Grail kit then for the moment.
What I think I might do is try to get my hands on one of those old vintage, and build it and put it side by side with the one that I did 45 years ago.
All right. Oh man, Pete. Pete's the guy that was talking about the why are we doing ships again? So we have Pete. I'll tell you, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but we do have basically the equivalent of Jeff for aircraft colors on the hook, and he's going to be in here with us at some point. So we've just got to get it sorted out. But I promise you, that's going to be a very, very fun and cool, interesting night when we get him in here. A lot of you guys probably know him, and it's going to be great. So I will try to get that coordinated sooner than later.
Yep.
It's going to be really, really nice. I wanted to mention, we can't go a whole show without me trying to sell something. I'm already trying to sell airbrushes, but I got to show you this, Jeff, if you hadn't seen it. You were talking about 32 scale stuff. Now, this is not 32 scale, but it's close. Have you seen Border's new announcement, their HE111?
Yes.
This is getting some major traction. The pre-orders already for this are really strong, a lot stronger than I was expecting. We got a lot of people looking forward to this. The 35th scale aircraft continues to grow, to gain speed and everything. And I think the reason this one probably is so attractive is if you're doing 35th scale, you probably build armor, you probably do dioramas, and this is just a fantastic subject to stick in a diorama. I mean, what are your thoughts about this thing?
Your pilot and your crew would come out in a Kubelwagen. They'd be driven out to the airfield in a Kubelwagen, and there's a Opel Blitz fueling truck that's topping off the tanks, getting it ready for a mission or something of that nature. Yeah. And then obviously all of the figures in 35th scale that go along with it.
Oh yeah. And they're doing a figure set. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
I don't have it posted yet, but the figures that Border is doing look fantastic. It's going to be really neat. And some of you guys know, and I think we have it posted in the kit announcements section with no price yet. I think, let's see if it's still there. It's hidden right now, but they got the Mustang coming, but they've also announced that they are going to do a B-17 in 35th scale.
And
so
it makes and I can remember being 25 years ago saying, why do they do aircraft in 32nd scale when armor's in 35th?
Right.
And when Tamiya came out and started really pushing 48 scale armor, I thought, well, that makes perfect sense, because now you got your 48 scale airplane and you got your 48 scale vehicles. And I was really kind of expecting, I was surprised that it took as long as it did for the 48 scale armor market to release fuel trucks and work trucks and things of that nature that would naturally go along with, the aircraft. I'm looking at it now and it's like, I got a whole wall of 32nd scale behind me.
Yep.
Do I really want to dive into 35th scale? And then, if they do a B-26, I'll have no choice. I'll get it just because. But yeah, I mean, it just opens up so many doors.
It really does. Because if you think about 72 scale, you can do anything in 72 scale, planes, tanks, ships, to some extent, all of it. And Border is the same company, remember, that is doing the ship stuff. And they're not doing full ships. A Tallery has some of the PT boats and Chanel boat things. But Border is doing these sections the U-boat section, the Akagi Bridge and flight deck. So they're doing all this very interesting stuff in 35th scale. I mean, 35th scale has got to be the king of the diorama.
Right.
I mean, it really is. And so having all of these types of subjects thrown in that scale, I think it's great.
Yeah. And I could probably Google it or look it up or ask Siri, what was the logic behind, 1/32nd scale being the standard scale that they chose. So other than, is it just simply math, as Ed says, 3/8 of an inch to the foot? It just, and I started out in 72nd scale, and one of the things that I started doing early on was building dioramas, and you'd get airfix stuff in 76 scale,
right?
And you'd get stuff from Japan in 72nd scale, and you put them together, and when you're 12 years old, it's not a big deal, but as you got older, you're like, it's not right. That Jeep should be the size of a Jeep, not the size of a go-kart. So I've always wondered why, there was no real standardization.
Well, if you go far enough back with Revell, for example, you always hear the old box scale. And if you know how boxes, to some extent, even today, are made, but certainly back then, you had basically tools that made boxes, dies, or whatever, however they made them. But you had a certain box, and you could make that box. So they made their models to fit in the box, because the boxes, you got to buy them in
massive quantities,
large quantities. So you got all these boxes, you want to put them to use, you make the models. I don't think way back then, I don't think any of these companies knew that 40, 50, 60 years from then, we were going to be sitting here on Wednesday night, and you're a 32 scale guy, I'm a 35th scale guy, Ed's a 48 scale or whatever it is, and
Right.
we have, and everything was gonna, back then it was just, hey, we're building models, I don't care what the scale is, it's cool, it's fun. Heck, you talk about, you blew half of yours up. I just really think
that was until I saw the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But fast forward to now, everything is really kind of consolidating into the main scales.
Yeah. And as I've gotten older, I spent the first half of my modeling career building 72nd scale. I've got, and I look over the top of the camera here, and there are 35 of those cardboard moving boxes that are full of built 72nd scale models. There's 400 of them over there, give or take. I got to that point where when I bought the new house and I had all of this room, I said, you know what, I'm going to skip 48th altogether and just go to 32nd, because that way, if I get older, I can stay with the scale, because I had friends who had gone from 72nd to 48, and then as they got older, they couldn't do 48th anymore and went to 32nd. So I don't look a day past 29. Yeah, right. Well, that's my IQ, by the way.
And that's why we have 200 scale ships and 16 scale tanks now.
And that's what I build. 32nd scale aircraft for the most part. I still do 35th scale armor because I can. But I love doing the big scale stuff.
Right.
16th scale armor and 200 scale ships, and I still build 35th scale. I still build 48 scale. Mostly armor. I really don't.
Come on, Jeff, you build everything.
I pretty much do. 1/8 scale Porsches. Oh, I got a little bit of a brag. We did the show and tell did we do it for this last month? And I showed off the Porsche 917, and I took it up to the Winnebago area auto modelers, the WHAM Club up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It was a car show. 400 models or so on the table, and it came home with Judge's Best of Show.
There you go.
So yeah, yay me.
Yeah. Well, before we get out of here, I'm going to do my sales pitch a little bit more
Okay.
because there's too many exciting things coming out. I don't think last week we talked about this.
Galeri airbrushes next week.
Well, yes, Galeri airbrushes. Grab you one of those and see what you think. But check this out. So, Edward did the Bloody 100th B-17, and that was their co-op with HK models.
Yep.
Well, they're doing another one. This is the co-op with HK on a B-25J. This is the Strafer version, the gun nose.
Yep.
And this is going to be pretty cool. They are due out, I don't know, sometime after the first of the year. I don't know if it's February or March, somewhere in that ballpark, I think. But just like Edward did with the Bloody 100th, they are doing a limited edition pre-order time, and we've got to give them our order, I think, by the 10th, if I'm remembering correctly. So we got like 5 more days to build up our pre-orders. So if you want one of these things, get yours on pre-order. We're going to order some extras, obviously, over what we pre-order, but after we submit our order, that's it. So if the pre-orders keep going, we'll possibly sell out before they get here. I don't know. So if you want one of these things, get it. It's going to be cool. We'll have some more information coming soon. I don't think they've posted the box art for it yet. I would imagine and hope that Peter is doing their box art. And Jeff, you were laughing over there. What am I missing?
Oh, nothing. I've got Crazy Dog here. She's deciding she wants to crawl into my lap.
There you go. All right. Well, that's the Strafer. Did we talk about ICM's Hamden?
We did.
We did. Okay.
That
Yep.
last show.
Yep.
So the Strafer, I'm excited about it for us and for our customers. I have the HK B-25 in 32nd scale.
Okay.
And back in the old days when I ran the Air Museum back in New Jersey, one of my volunteers flew with the 322nd, maybe it's the wrong, Air Apaches. He was the guy that loaded the 75 millimeter gun in the nose of the B-25. Well, the breech of the breech of the gun was in the bomb bay, but the barrel went through the front of the nose of the gun. And so I'm actually going to be doing someday, he's long since left us, but I want to do his aircraft up.
Nice.
It's a 32nd scale gun nose conversion. So I'm going to,
that'll look good.
Yeah, I'm going to do it as an H model. I have the J, so I'm going to do the H model conversion and put the 75 millimeter gun in it and whatnot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ken's asking about this Grizzly sitting behind my desk. I just had it down looking at it earlier because I want to build it, but I know that I better not open it and start it because it would just be yet another project started. But we did just get these back in stock, and dang, we're already down to 11 of them. But they're cool. This is Border Models yet again. This is their Command and Conquer Red Alert series models, which they've got a bunch of them. The Apocalypse, the Grizzly, the Tesla tank, the airship. I hope they do some more. I was a big fan of that video game. So
please don't start it anytime soon because I'm supposed to do a set of tracks for it.
Is that where my tracks are?
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering why I'm missing the tracks.
Because one of the very first things
I gave them to you.
Yeah, one of the very first things you did, you opened up, you walked over to me and you just like pushed this this like plastic shrink wrap sprue at me, and you go, "Make these."
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. I forgot.
So
all right. Well, lots of cool stuff. Too much to even go through. So we'll be here same time, same place next week. We can talk about more.
The M4A1 late. The big hatch Shermans are out now. There's all kinds of good stuff.
Oh yeah. And there's more coming. We're just covered up. So keep an eye on the site. It is Black Friday month. I know everybody's excited about that. We've got a Black Friday section already here that you can see. There's just some piddly stuff in here we're trying to just blow out and get rid of. That's not really our Black Friday sale. It's just there's nowhere else on the website to put it. So if you want some really cheap kits, jump in here and grab you those. But we're planning on the Black Friday. It's going to start sometime within the next week or two, and then we'll start adding to it all the way up to actual Black Friday. But it's going to be kind of like a reverse auction. We're gonna have stuff in there, and it's going to go quick. And if you wait too long, it's going to be gone. So
and some pretty cool stuff too.
Yeah. So
pretty cool stuff. Oh,
yeah.
Look at this. You get, Frill shows up. I've known Frill for how many years now? Oh, yeah. And who does he say he wants to get on the podcast? You. Thanks for the love, Frildo.
Yeah. We like working with, there's 3 of the podcast guys out there that we work with, and he's certainly one of them. So
D-Ran and Whitey and Frildo, those are some of the greatest guys in the hobby right there.
Oh yeah.
For naval aviators. I mean,
Bill is just brought up a good point. Thank you, Bill. The Eagle Club launched Friday, so that's right. It was not launched last Wednesday night. If you come on the site over here on the left, Eagle Club. Oh, I'm doing it, but you're not seeing it.
Yeah,
over here on the left, Eagle Club. The 2026 Eagle Club membership is open now. You can go through here. Basically, you're going to get an extra 2% discount on all your orders and all your pre-orders. You're going to get free shipping on all your orders at $100, not $200. And then we'll have all the other goodies and fun stuff announced after the first of the year. But the reason we start selling these things before the first of the year is so you can utilize your extra discounts for Black Friday. So
and the holidays, and buying model kits for your favorite podcast hosts, and
or your. We had a guy one time that he bought a lot of models all the time, and he said, "Yeah, I buy all these for my model club. We buy it all together and we ship it here, and it's for my model club." But one time, his wife called to order him a Christmas present or something, and I said, "Oh yeah, your husband's a great guy, good customer. His model club buys a lot of models, and happy to have him as a customer." And she says, "Model club? His model club is him and himself." And oh man, we laughed about that for years.
Now, did I tell you the story about the guy in our club? So we had a guy in our club, and he shall not be named because he's still with us and he's still married to this lovely lady. But his scam, our model club in New Jersey used to meet at a hobby shop. And so he would save his boxes and all of his sprues from the kits that he had built. And he'd put all the sprues in the boxes. And then the night of the club meeting, he'd walk out of the house with a bunch of model kits. And he'd say to his wife, "Oh, I'm trading these kits with Fred." So then he'd leave, and then he'd go to the club meeting, and he'd go around the back, and he'd take all the empty boxes and the sprues, and he'd throw them in the garbage, and then he'd buy a whole bunch of stuff, and then he'd come back in and he'd say, "These are the kits that I traded with my friend Fred." So one day, he and his wife are in the grocery store, and they run into Fred, and he had never bothered to put Fred into the equation. So his wife says, "Oh, pleased to meet you. I'm so happy that you're always trading kits with my husband." And he's like, "Lady, what are you talking about?"
Oh man,
he got busted.
Well, there are so many good stories that can be told, and told in the right way and hiding identities. It could be a fun night. So we got some scheduling to do here.
Mm-hmm.
So November 19th, 2 weeks from tonight, November show and tell.
Okay. So
if you've not submitted your show and tell pictures for this month, please do so between now and 2 weeks from now. And we don't have a date yet, but we are collecting pictures of your model room, your man cave, your stash, your holy grail, whatever you have that you want to show off, brag about, and let everybody see. We are collecting pictures of those. So as soon as we collect enough, we're going to have a special show and tell night where we just show off our man cave, our model bench, our paint collection, or whatever it is that you have that pertains to the hobby or is connected to the hobby. Like if you have real aircraft stuff, that's part of the hobby. Your book collection. I mean, I back here behind me, I've got my arcade with all my comic book stuff, but I build comic book models, so that counts. So whatever your hobby is or whatever you collect that pertains to model kit building or collecting, send us those pictures. We're going to do that. Another thing that we are going to do, and this will be in the first of the year, is we have what we think is an amazing story. And we think that it is, if not the largest, certainly one of the largest stashes ever. And if you know of somebody that's got a ridiculously large stash of model kits, and I don't want just stories and hearsay and legends, because there's plenty of that. We've got to have photographic evidence, a real picture of said stash. So if you've got one in mind that you say, man, old Joe's got a massive collection, get some pictures, get some numbers, and let's see who really does have the largest stash, because we've got a story that we're going to share with picture proof. And actually, it's more than just picture proof. We actually bought this collection after the man passed away. So I know for a fact firsthand that it's true. It's quite amazing and impressive. But that'll be in the first of the year. We're going to do a standalone video. It won't be live. Obviously we'll talk about it on the live show. But
Right.
If you've got pictures of collections that are unusually large of model kits, let us know. Shoot me some pictures, some emails, because it'll turn into a very fun evening whenever we put that one together.
Now, you do know that you're not eligible to win this by just walking around with showing the
Yes.
warehouse.
Okay. Good point. This has to be a private collection. No store, no warehouse, no manufacturer, no flea market. No, this is private collection in your closet or in your storage locker. No, this is
Warehouse.
private collection only. Yep.
I did see a long time ago. I had a friend of a friend who was a collector, and he was not a builder. He was a kit collector. And we went to his house, and the entire 2-car garage was his model stash.
Oh, wow.
Like, he had industrial shelves, and he did 72nd scale. So, I mean, you can fit a lot of 72nd scale.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And this place was packed, and he had everything under the sun.
Wow.
But he only did 72nd scale, and he only did World War II.
Yep.
So, but yeah, there are guys here. I mean,
yeah, Ken says, is 2,500 big? To me, absolutely, that's big. And Frank says he stopped counting after 8,000 kits. I mean, these are some incredible numbers. So yeah, get us some pictures. And Bill asked if he could do sure, videos are fine. Send videos, send pictures. We got to find out who's got the largest privately owned stash. It'll be fun, and it'll be really neat.
Yeah. I'm not even in the running for like 80th place in this lineup.
Me neither, but I'm telling you, this guy I'm going to tell you guys about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been several years. It was back when we were with Free Time Hobbies, and I'll just say that when we bought his collection, we had to go rent another warehouse because it wouldn't fit in our store.
Wow.
Yep. So it'll be cool. We will we'll put that together. It'll be fun for everybody to see. But those are some of the things we've got coming up. The show and tell, the stash room show and tell, the largest model collection. We've got, like I said, we've got aircraft colors evening coming. We've got some other. We've got a new, and I won't spoil which one it is, but we've got another museum coming on to talk about a museum that, believe this or not, this museum that's going to come on with us. Hopefully, we're working out the details. Jeff didn't even know this museum existed.
Nope.
So it's going to be very cool. They've got some interesting things. So excited to talk to them.
There's a reason I didn't know this museum didn't exist.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of museums.
It's 1,700 miles away. I mean, I can't road trip that and be home in time for dinner.
There you go. So. There you go. Well, cool. Well, guys, thank you all so much for hanging with us tonight.
Hope I didn't bore anybody to death with watching paint dry.
Oh, and remember, if anybody wants to read through all those notes, it'll be posted up. And again, from the home page up at the information tab under rivet counting, this is where all that kind of stuff is going to go. And the new one from tonight will be posted up tomorrow. So,
yep.
All right. Well, guys, take it easy. Jeff, see you next time.
Talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Y'all take it easy, and we'll see you again next week.